ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. Tonight is nothing but rants. We got a little something different for you guys. A little intro music, and I don't know how it played out. We'll find out post-edit. We'll find out post-show how those intro tunes worked for us tonight. But it is nothing but rants. It is Tuesday night. I am in the studio all by my lonesome. No production assistant, no Ditko, no Lord of the Dings, nothing. Just me, my melodic voice, some melodic tones, and a bunch of topics to get to ranting about. And I'm super excited about it. So tonight, nothing but rants. As we told you, I got a plethora of topics, and we're gonna bring our first actual guest in here. Not just the Patreon subscribers, not just those guys. They will be in and out tonight. We will be taking phone calls if they so feel the need to get in here and talk. But I will be bringing Scott Kennedy of allfalcons.com, a buddy of mine for quite a while now. I've known Scott for a couple of years at this point. Great dude and really, really knowledgeable about his subject matter at all times. Whatever that subject matter is, one of the smarter guys I know when it comes to not only this industry, but football in general. So I'm really excited to talk to him tonight. I'll tell you what, it's a down year for quarterbacks in the SEC. Super excited to talk about that topic. Not very often is that something that we can say. And we'll talk about how Georgia has all the resources in the world to become an absolute pass rushing juggernaut in the very near future. If they do things correctly and change some philosophies just a little bit. And it's something we've talked about on Patreon this week, and we will bring it to you here tonight on Nothing But Rants. And of course, at the end of the show tonight, stick around for this one. I've got football Q for BA. Again, that's football question for BA. That's where the audience asks me a couple of questions about football and get my little intel on some things specifically that they want to know. Without a doubt, let's get right into it. All righty, ladies and gentlemen. So I told you off the top, it's a down year for Georgia, or not for Georgia. It's a down year for the SEC in terms of quarterback play. Okay, look, the days of having 6 or 7 quality quarterbacks in this conference appear to be gone, at least for right now. It's not a super loaded group in 2021. It's not a super deep group, but the top end's pretty talented. Let's just start with who's kind of going out, right? Who's left the conference? Kyle Trask, out of there at Florida. Mac Jones, out of there at Alabama. Kellen Mond, out of there at Texas A&M. Felipe Franks, everybody say, Felipe Franks ain't that good, Brooks, but it's still a quarterback room that is gone, right? It is a quarterback, a quarterback starter that is out of there. He is no longer in the SEC, so that is a vacancy at the quarterback position up there at Arkansas. Let's go into some guys that we might have some questions about, right? Do you believe in Bo Nix at Auburn in his 3rd year as a starter in the SEC? I don't know. I'm not really exactly going out here and hitching my wagon to Bo Nix, of all people, and I don't think you will be either. Okay, Will Rogers out there at Mississippi State had a pretty good year last year in some games, looked pretty good. Against Georgia, I think he threw for about 330 yards. Looked pretty daggone good. Didn't turn the football over. The other games, not so much. Was really touch and go last year in his first year starting in the SEC. So we don't really know much about him either. How about Colin Hill up there at South Carolina? You guys out here buying Colin Hill stock? Because I don't see very many people that are. So we'll put him in the category of, I just don't really know, right? Who's going to actually play at Florida? Everybody just considers Dan Mullen to be this quarterback guru. And yeah, they've got a Rick Gilbert. They got some offensive line guys coming back. They've got, some talent out there at Florida, but they still lost their top 3 weapons, right? I mean, Kyle Pitts off to the NFL. Kadarius Toney off to the NFL. Trayvon Grimes off to the NFL. Okay, so that offense is pretty much desecrated from last year. Again, yes, you got a Rick Gilbert, but who's going to be your quarterback? Are we confident sitting here right now, middle of February, saying, yeah, Emory Jones, going to be the starting quarterback at Florida? I don't know. My timeline of the Florida fans that I interact with on Twitter, they were eating up every bit of Anthony Richardson that they possibly could during the bowl game. So is Emory Jones really a lock to start at Florida, or do they not really know who their starting quarterback is? I think you would rather lean, or you would probably lean towards the latter of that discussion, right? They don't know who their quarterback is. There's still a battle impending upon what's actually going to happen there. So Florida, have no idea. How about LSU? Do we know who's starting at LSU? Yeah, Max Johnson. We've heard all about him. TJ Flinley played pretty well last year in his limited time. who's going to start at LSU? We really don't know that question. We didn't really know that question going into last year. And they rolled out and got their starting quarterback hurt, and the next thing you know, it's a carousel of quarterbacks going on there. And all of them, for the most part, pretty young individuals, right? Pretty young quarterbacks. So could it be another carousel in 2021 for LSU? If you told me it was, I wouldn't really be shocked. Would you? I don't think you probably would be. So we've got all kinds of changes going on at the quarterback position in Kentucky. Do we really know if Joey Gatewood's going to be the guy in 2021 for Kentucky? Probably not. We don't know that sitting right now. It's not definite. That's not concrete. How about some uber-talented football players, right? How about some uber-talented quarterbacks that we don't really know about? Prime example. Do we really know what Harrison Bailey is up at Tennessee? No. I'm going to tell you we don't. Yeah, he got some good, a decent playing time last year in replace of Jarrett Guarantano, but Guarantano's gone. It's Harrison Bailey's football team moving forward. TJ Stroud is out. He's gone off to Colorado. It's Harrison Bailey's show moving forward. So is that really going to be a loaded, quarterback room up there at Tennessee? Probably not. Again, is Harrison Bailey extremely talented? Yes, he's uber talented. Do we know what he is at this point? Do we know if he's a consistent, positive quarterback play and consistent quarterback play at Tennessee? We don't know that yet. How about Bryce Young out there at Alabama? SI All-American, SI Quarterback of the Year, SI Captain of the All-American team in 2020. Do we know what he is? No, we don't know what he is. We know he's super talented. But like we saw with DJ Uiagalelei last year, DJ was super talented. He was uber talented. But did anything amount to that? I mean, yeah, he played pretty well, but he almost got beat by Boston College. Okay, he lost to Notre Dame. And turn around a couple weeks later, Clemson plays Notre Dame with their actual starting quarterback, and they blow them out of the water. And people will say, well, their defense played a lot better. Well, yeah, they did, but their offense played a whole hell of a lot better as well. So, it's a catch-22 there. With young quarterbacks, you don't really know what you're going to get. And I can't remember the last time we saw a true freshman, or in this case, a redshirt freshman, who, has a year under his belt in college football, but how many redshirt freshmen are coming out here and lighting the world on fire outside of Johnny Manziel, who I never thought I'd say this, but we're going to be talking about Johnny tonight. Johnny will get in here. That's the last redshirt freshman I remember that came out and just lit the world on fire. Everybody else kind of gets worked up, gets into the mix before their sophomore and junior year when they really take off, right? So of all these quarterbacks, right, I just went through about 9 different positions. We're not going to talk about Vandy. I'm sorry. Okay? Sorry. It's not a real pressing issue for me. Who's playing quarterback at Vandy? Doesn't really matter. They're Vandy, right? So all of these quarterback situations across the SEC, they're not necessarily in turmoil, but they're in turnover, right? I mean, it's not a consistent commodity. It's not a known commodity going into 2021 at all of these schools we just mentioned. Now, there are a few places where I believe that you've got pretty sustainable quarterback play, right? And we got Scott on the line right now. We'll get to him in just a minute. But, you've got known commodities at certain quarterback positions across the country or across the SEC. The Bazelak kid up at Missouri, loved the way he played in year 1 under Eli Drinkowitz up there in Missouri. Absolutely loved the way he played. Now, Matt Corral at Ole Miss. I guarantee you, hot take, he's going to light it up at Ole Miss this year again. Okay, not very many quarterbacks under Lane Kiffin have not just absolutely torn it up during their time, right? I mean, he's going to play well. Blake Sims won a national title for Alabama under Lane Kiffin as an offensive coordinator. Whoever his quarterback is, I could go out there and throw for 2,500 yards, 28 touchdowns, and probably 15 interceptions because I'd be a little risque with the football. Okay, every quarterback ever under Lane Kiffin's going to light it up. Matt Corral in 2021, going to be no different. So we really only have 2. And then there's JT Daniels at the University of Georgia, right? In a sport in which the success of the team is predicated upon one position, the quarterback, Georgia has the surest thing in the entire conference. When was the last time you could say that at the University of Georgia? And think deeply, think hard on this idea and this topic right now. When was the last time going into a football season you could say to all of your Georgia buddies, Georgia's got the best quarterback in the conference, and there's no debate. Georgia's got the best quarterback and the most consistent quarterback in the conference going into the season. Let's just go through the history in the last 2 decades at the University of Georgia. Matt Stafford, incredible talent, right? Everybody loves Matt Stafford. Well, during his time, there was this guy by the name of Tim Tebow, and I don't know if y'all heard about him, but he was a pretty daggone good college football player. Okay, and he was a really good college quarterback. Better than better than Matt Stafford. Was the best quarterback in the SEC during his time, during Matt Stafford's time, when they overlapped and interceded. How about Aaron Murray? I mean, absolutely owns every bit of the record book at the University of Georgia, right? Absolutely owns it. Already got it in the chat box. Aaron Murray, Brooks, what about Aaron Murray? Well, I'll tell you what, peak Aaron Murray was in 2012. And I don't know if y'all have ever heard about this guy by the name of Johnny Manziel, but he lit college football on fire. Now, granted, it was Texas A&M's first year in the SEC, but this dude showed up and balled out. We got the next one showing up in the chat. How about David Green? David Green absolutely had to, Brooks, been the best quarterback in the SEC during his time. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. Eli Manning was in the SEC at that time. Jason Campbell was taking Auburn on 13-0 seasons. Chris Leak was winning national championships and playing for national titles at Florida. David Green was never the best quarterback in the SEC. Matt Stafford was never the best quarterback in the SEC. Aaron Murray, despite all of the records he broke, was never the best quarterback in the SEC. Georgia's got a chance to do something this year that they haven't since 1993 when Eric Zaire was the starting quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs, right? It's been almost 30 years since Georgia's had the number one quarterback in the conference. It's been a long time, ladies and gentlemen, and in 2021, when all of your aspirations and all of your goals as a Georgia fan should and will be, and rightfully so, national title contention and national title expectations, you've got it. I see DJ Shackley in here. There was a guy by the name of Jamarcus Russell at LSU, first number one overall draft pick. We can go all day. We can send in comments all you want. It hasn't happened. I did the research today. It took me about an hour to dig through all the wikis, all the all-SEC honor roll teams, all the stat books, all the reference pages. You will not find it until this year. Until this year, Georgia has the best quarterback heading into a football season in the entire SEC. And again, at a position of worth and value, like the quarterback position, you can't say enough about that. All right, so up next, I told you we're going to take our very first phone call tonight. I believe this is Scott on the line. I've been rudely leaving him on hold for about 5 minutes now. We're going to get to him. Now, for those of you who don't know Scott Kennedy, you can find him on Twitter at Scout Kennedy. That's SCOUT. That's a little play on words. Scout Kennedy, KENNEDY. Now, Scott now writes for allfalcons.com. Again, I led the show with telling you that Scott's not only, one of the closer, mentors to me in this industry, but he dang sure knows what he's talking about. Scott, how we doing today, brother?
I'm doing good. Hope you can hear me okay. I enjoyed listening to that because when you were talking about Lane Kiffin, it brought back to one of my scoutisms that I came up with through the years. And the quarterback is the one position I'd rather have the coach than the player. If I've got David Cutcliffe, I don't care who my quarterback is. If I got Randy saying this is how old I am. I came up with this in about 2001 when Tennessee's talking about whoever they're going to get at quarterback. I'm like, as long as y'all have Randy Sanders as offensive coordinator, it doesn't matter who you get at quarterback. And when you got David Cutcliffe, it doesn't matter who you got at quarterback. He's going to perform. So, and I said that about Ralph Friesen. When Goose Gottse's beating you, it's about the system than the quarterback. So enjoyed that segment and appreciate you having me on.
No doubt, Scott. And I don't mean to date you, but I mean, most of my demo runs a little younger, Scott. So
there's a few guys that'll be happy to say, "Oh, that was 20 years ago." What we're talking about was 20 years ago. I'm an old guy. I'm a product of the 80s and 90s and aughts in college football.
It's all good, man. I mean, it comes with wisdom, right? With age comes wisdom. You've obviously taught me a lot about the industry, and now you've kind of transitioned into covering the Falcons, which I know even before you were covering them, Scott, you were watching them really, really closely, right? I mean, you just got back into covering them, and now with allfalcons.com. But tell me a little bit about, what your journey is, and tell us how folks can find you before we get further. Tell us about allfalcons.com, Scott.
Well, sure. It's a natural progression for me. The team sites and stuff are doing really well. They did really well when we were at Scout. They're doing really well at Rivals. They're doing really well at Sports Illustrated, as you know. So it has to be a passion. And, I've been a Falcons fan my whole life. I grew up in Atlanta. I went to Auburn, but I wasn't an Auburn fan growing up. I was a Falcons fan. So it was pretty easy for me to ignore the Alabama Auburn stuff and come back here. And, to me, more important was Atlanta and New Orleans. And, to cover a team, I think you really have to cover a team well. I think you really have to have a passion for that team. And it's tough. Oh, God, it's tough being an Atlanta Falcon, an Atlanta sports fan, through the years. It is hard. But, I say if I'll wear a Falcon shirt out and people say, oh, man, you're brave wearing that shirt. I'm like, well, you're not really a fan if you're only a fan when they're good. I grew up in the speaking of dating myself, this is kind of the golden age of Falcons football. The Smith family that owned the Falcons. We didn't have back-to-back winning seasons for 35 years. So, but allfalcons.com is where I'm starting to go. And then if you follow me, like you said, at Scout Kennedy, if you check it out, I'm running a YouTube channel too, where that's where I do a lot more of my NFL draft stuff or professional things in different sports. Just kind of the personality, because as you know, it's not just about one team for us. We love the sports themselves.
Yeah, I mean, Scott's one of these guys like me that you'll see tonight. We could talk for hours. He's always going to be able to carry a conversation no matter what the conversation is, and he's always going to bring light to that conversation and give you something thoughtful. And that's exactly why we're having him on. And we're having him on to talk about this NFL draft, Scott. Now, the Falcons have, I believe this is the highest draft pick that they've had naturally in quite a long time, right? I mean, the last time they had one this high, they had to trade up for Julio Jones. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but number 4 overall, Scott. What's kind of the rumors around the options here at number 4 for the Atlanta Falcons? What do you think that they do? What's kind of the rumors and kind of the speculation about what they do?
Well, there's several guys there, and I think the only sure thing we have at the top of this draft right now is Trevor Lawrence to Jacksonville, number 1. After that, I think there's, and I just did this on my YouTube channel. I posted it, just what should the Falcons do? And I talked about it. This is a good year to have a top 5 pick, top 4 especially, because I think I'm going to date myself again real quick, because in my formative years, I really first started following the draft in 1989. 1989 was number 1 Troy Aikman, number 2 Tony Mandrich, number 3 Barry Sanders, number 4 Derek Thomas, number 5 Deion Sanders. That's 4 Hall of Famers and a bust. This is this draft might not live up to the 89, but I think we've got some pretty special players here. And if Trevor Lawrence goes off the board at number 1, I'm happy for the Falcons to take any one of those next 3 guys, whether it's one of the 2 quarterbacks. Now, my personal preference is Justin Fields, coming out of Cartersville High School in Kennesaw. Just with the arm talent there and the local flavor, I think he just fits into the community so well that he's ready. That he would be a perfect guy to take the reins from Matt Ryan in a year or 2. Zach Wilson, BYU, gunslinging quarterback, Brett Favre mentality, big, just huge arm. I think he fits for. I think if Urban Meyer is still in the college game, I think this is his number 1 guy. He runs tough. Rather where Trevor Lawrence is that pure trot back guy. Doesn't mean he can't run, but he doesn't want to. And then finally, if one of those 2 quarterbacks is available, I think the big offensive tackle Penny Sewell from Oregon is more of a win now flavor. Yeah. I don't think the Falcons are in position to win right now, but this is a guy that can help you win tomorrow, as opposed to building for the future. And with a new coach and a new general manager, I think they're playing for maybe the most patient owner in sports in Arthur Blank. So I think they'll have the luxury of building for the future. So for me, I want the quarterback, but if it's not there and they don't get overwhelmed with a trade offer, then Penny Sewell shores up your left tackle position for the next decade out of Oregon. I think he's phenomenal. So that's where I'd go, and then we can talk about some different scenarios as you want, or we can dive back into some of those players.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Zach Wilson is available, I don't think both of them, right? I don't think both Justin and Zach are going to be available at 4. But if, let's say they were just so happen to be there, I'll tell you this. I'll give my opinion. I love Justin Fields. I think the ceiling of the prospect is incredibly high, right? But for me, if I'm Arthur Smith, if I'm running what he does, in terms of a heavy downhill run action, a lot of work, a lot of boots, right? A lot of turning your back to the defense. Well, Wilson's done that in college, right? We haven't seen Justin really be able to do that.
As opposed to a shotgun guy. Yeah,
absolutely, as opposed to a straight up spread guy. So if you had the option, if you were a Falcons fan, just going on what your coach does, then take Wilson, because he's been able to show the ability to turn his back to the defense and his ability to do that now. But then again, you don't really, if you're drafted a quarterback this early, you hope he's a decade and a half worth of a football player. How many coaches are out here lasting 15 years? That's the question.
Yeah, none of them. I think, the general manager is in a better prospect for that. So, and I said the same thing. I said, if the Falcons are picking two, who do you take? And my preference was a little different, but like I said, I'll be happy with any one of those guys. It's a great year to be picking top 4, top 5, and Brooks, not between you and I, but between you, me, and everybody else, I'm not sure any of the quarterbacks are going to be available at 4, because the Miami Dolphins are, in a lot of the mocks, are talking about taking one of the wide receivers. I'm like, wait, what happened? Did Thomas Dimitroff go down to Miami? They're not taking they shouldn't be taking a wide receiver at the 3 spot. If they want to take a receiver, trade down. You know what, you can somebody like Carolina will give you an extra first-round pick to go from 3 to 8, or where, right, say in the top 10, you pick up another pick, you still get one of the receivers you want, whether it's Chase or Devontae out of Alabama. So, I'm not positive that one of those 3 quarterbacks is even going to be there at all. And I'll tell you one thing, if Carolina does trade up into that spot, I don't want to see Justin Fields or Zach Wilson twice a year. I just don't, not for the next decade. I've had enough of seeing, Drew Brees, who I think is older than me for the last 25 years. I swear we played him 50 times. So, I don't want to see that happen. So, what could really be crazy? If they have their minds made up on a quarterback, they might have to move up a spot. They might have to go up to the 3 spot. What would that cost them to switch places with the Dolphins?
So you think if there's movement here for the Falcons, you think it's up, not necessarily down? I mean, could
I think
you see
it's both.
Could you see
both.
Could you see them trading back, saying, "Hey, we'll take another 3 or 4 years with Matt Ryan, and we'll see you the next loaded quarterback draft class"? Is that a possibility?
Absolutely. I think it's absolutely a chance to trade down. And I'm of my formative years in 80s and 90s with the 49ers and Cowboys dynasties, and Bill Walsh and Jimmy Johnson made a living trading back. Picking up more players, because there's just not that big a difference if you're at 20 between the guy who's at 25 and the guy who's at 30. And if I can trade from 25 and get the guy at 30 and 35, well, the chances are I'm going to get a better player if I've got 2 players to choose from that are fighting for those positions. So, unless you're just absolutely sure, and guess what? There is no sure thing out here, because there's busts from every team everywhere. People used to say, it's like about you missing. What do you feel when you miss? I'm like, half the first round goes bust. What makes you think I'm going to get them all right? Jesus.
Yeah,
so trading down makes sense to me if they get the right offer, for sure.
I think in recent memory, now it's been a decade, but in recent memory, the most player absolutely loaded draft class we've ever had in my recent mind is 2011, right? You had Cam Newton, Von Miller, AJ Green, Pat Peterson, Julio Jones. Alden Smith was a great football player before he got himself in trouble. J.J. Watt, Mike Pouncey, both the Pouncey brothers. Nate Solder, highest paid tackle in the NFL. Prince Amukamara, great corner for a long time. Adrian Claiborne played for a long time. Cam Jordan at 24. So Mark Ingram, absolutely loaded in 2011. And honestly, when we look back at 2021, there's a very strong possibility that, what if all these quarterbacks hit? And we look back, and Atlanta passed on them. You know what I'm saying? If Atlanta passes on all 4 of these guys, all 5 of them, because I've seen about 5 quarterbacks at most in mock drafts mix up in the discussion for a first-round caliber quarterback.
One of those guys really climbing a lot is Mac Jones.
And you saw him at the Senior
Mac Jones
Bowl,
out of Alabama.
So let us know. Give us your feedback on Jones.
Deshaun Watson. That's my feedback on Mac Jones. And the thing about Deshaun is he's the only high school quarterback in my life, and I've seen 50,000 of them, that I ever remember getting to call his own plays at the line of scrimmage, because he was a savant. He's just a virtuoso of the position. Deshaun didn't like to run the ball, not much of a runner at all. Doesn't have an arm of a guy like Matthew Stafford, who we talked about. I went out to Texas and saw him. Didn't have that kind of arm, but just knows how to play the position better than anybody else. That's Mac Jones. Mac Jones. If you take Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, and Zach Wilson and put them on a field together, and just watch them in a combine environment, Mac Jones is going to get blown out of the water. You're going to say this guy's got no arm, very little athleticism. But let's put him out there on a game. Let's watch him. I don't like the word game manager because he's much more than that. But get the team in the right play. And for me, what makes him so special is what he can do in the face of the rush. He is so good at buying a little extra time, delivering the ball with accuracy from different angles, that the rush doesn't faze him nearly as much as some of these other guys who are used to just running away from a rush. They won't be able to do that in the NFL. They can rush for yards, but they can't. A friend of mine said, a busted play is no basis for an offense. That's just not a system. Mac Jones reminds me of Deshaun Watson. Do I want him at 4? No, I'd probably rather have some of the other guys. But you mentioned that trade down. And I don't know if the Falcons could, but if they could trade down to 10, pick up a second rounder and get Mac Jones, or maybe even higher, pick up another first, and I'm interested.
One thing, it's not my story. It's Todd McShay's story. He was on Ryan Russillo's podcast. Shout out to Russillo. But he was talking about Mac Jones, and he said he had 2 Alabama games this year. He obviously had him for the national championship game, but he also had him early on in the year, like first game of the year. I believe it was Ole Miss. And he's talking to Sarkisian before the game, and he's like, Sark, what do you think? And he goes, well, I mean, we'll just kind of go as far as he allows us to go. We'll kind of lean on the weapons, hope he doesn't turn it over, just hope he doesn't make mistakes. And then by the end of the year, when he had talked to Sark was running him down saying, Todd, look, man, I've never given a quarterback as much as I gave Mac Jones this year. The dude is running his own offense at times and giving his input on what he wanted and controlling things at the line of scrimmage. So that kind of speaks to the mental aspect you're talking about. And I think that's where the player comparison comes in, right? Because you can't sit here and tell me Deshaun Watson's anywhere close to, a similar athlete as Mac Jones. But I get what you're saying in terms of the mental capacity of the two individuals leaving college football.
When we start comparing arm talent of quarterbacks that we've seen in the last 10 years, it's going to take a long time to get to Deshaun Watson. It's going to take a long time.
That's fair.
But when I start talking about the smartest quarterback I've ever scouted, Deshaun Watson's right there. Mac Jones is now in that conversation. And now I call it the enough factor. And it's especially one of the things that makes quarterbacks so hard to evaluate is to play the position requires so many things that you cannot measure physically. Are you big, fast, and strong? Well, then you can play football. You might not be able to play quarterback. So that's the mental stuff, the intangibles, the it factor that is part of the quarterback position. How does a guy like Philip Rivers? I still can't believe he was a quarterback. Have you seen him throw a football?
Yeah, and he damn near went to the AFC Championship game too.
Peyton Manning. Have you seen? Have you seen this guy? He looks like he'd be awkward on a golf course. So there's so much more to it. And going back a long, long, long way, Dan Marino had a lightning quick release. His feet were stuck in cement blocks. Yeah. Bernie Kosar, those guys. So I grew up watching these guys that knew how to play the position. That didn't necessarily have those electric arms. Mm-hmm. But do you have enough? Do you have enough of an arm? Do you have enough size? Do you have the enough factor? Now what else are you looking for? So Mac Jones has enough of an arm. He's got an NFL arm, even if it's not an elite NFL arm. He's got an NFL arm. And then he's got so much more of the things that you can't measure that, to me, makes him – he's going to be a pretty good quarterback in the NFL for a long, long time.
I think the issue and the crux of the discussion around Mac Jones is that – and you know this as well as I do – NFL scouts don't really like to bet on intangibles. They like to bet on measurables, the things that they have in front of them, which is why we see these other guys ahead of them in most of these mock drafts.
And what you're going to see, the money throw for quarterbacks in the NFL is drop down and throw that 20-yard out to the opposite hash.
Yeah.
What can you get it there in a reasonable time? If so, you're going high. If not, you're going to come down the list a little bit. So, because a step, just a little bit off of that throw is a pick six. So, can you make that throw?
So before I let you go and before I sell you on why Ben Cleveland needs to be drafted by the Atlanta Falcons, give me some positions of need heading into this 2021 NFL draft. I know there's a ton of holes on that Atlanta Falcons roster, but going into this, you got a handful of picks. What are positions of need that you absolutely have to hit on if you're the Atlanta Falcons and your first draft as a general manager and a head coach?
Oh man, and that's what makes it so tough is because there are so many holes. They're not going to be a fill in free agency. So, like you're saying, trading down could be important. Alex Mack, a center, right there, the centerpiece, the quarterback of your offensive line as a free agent. He was $9 million last year. They're $40 million over the cap right now. Can they afford to bring him back? Todd Gurley, what are they going to do with him? He was a disappointment, about $6 million. Keanu Neal, he's played 19 games in the last 3 years. Another free agent. You need another safety. You need another corner to go opposite of A.J. Sorrell.
Yeah.
The one position on defense, the only one I think that is fairly well set is linebacker. So everything else, they were 29th in defense. That wasn't an accident. That's because you didn't have enough people to cover and you weren't getting any pass rush. Other than that, you look great. So you're looking there. I think, again, I apologize to the Dimitrov family, but I take a shot at him pretty much every chance I get, because he treated the team like he was playing 7-on-7, and you win in the trenches, and watching him trade up for skill players on offense just made me sick to my stomach year after year. And you win in the trenches, so you go big and athletic on the offensive and defensive lines. And you build out from there, or it doesn't matter if you get another corner if you can't get a pass rush. The best pass defense in the world is a quarterback on his ass. So and they're not getting any pressure. So I think they've got to get another pass rusher, and then they're gonna have to figure out what they're gonna do at safety, honestly, because Keanu Neal's gonna be expensive. And he's missed a ton, and that's one of the reasons why they give up so many yards is no pass. Again, it's pretty simple. Yeah, they're not covering many people, and the guys that are covering are having to cover for way too long because they're not getting any pass rush with the front four.
All right, let's sell you on Ben Cleveland. You ready?
This shouldn't be too hard if you can keep him healthy. I mean, he's a freaking Hulk. He's big and strong. He's a people mover.
And he's a scheme fit, most importantly. Like, what Smith wants to do is this inside zone, downhill, not running a whole ton of outside zone, power, counter, stuff like that requires, big athletic offensive linemen. This is an offensive scheme that requires guys to be mass movers, guys to uproot three techniques at the guard position, not play any trickery and stuff like that. And he's dynamite in what he does best is quick setting in pass pro. He's not a guy that you want to have creating a ton of space off the line of scrimmage where defensive tackles can work moves on him. If you work him into a play action scheme like Arthur Smith runs, I think you're going to have a pretty successful football player. But like you mentioned, you got to keep the guy healthy. As we were texting about earlier, he's been built to glass during his Georgia times.
I was looking forward to seeing him, and I thought the offensive line, and again, this is just scouting notes, that at the Senior Bowl, you expect the offensive line to be probably the best group because those are the oldest guys out there. The skill position players, if you're at Georgia and you've got a running back for 4 years, you probably missed. You want your skill guys to be 3 and outs. You just do. At worst, a redshirt junior and they're gone. There's no point in redshirting a skill player at the University of Georgia because you're either if he's there for 5 years, it means you missed. But an offensive lineman, these guys are 50-year guys. They're 23-year-old grown men, and it was a good group. And I was upset. Long story short, he got hurt while he was there, and I didn't get to see him. I wish I would have. Yeah, I wish I would have gotten to see him out there against, just in person like that again. It would have been nice, but you don't have to sell me for what they're doing. I'm a big philosophy of the KISS philosophy. I'm a big fan. Keep it simple, stupid. Block the guy in front of you. That's not hard. No. and Ben, that guy, move him. Don't let him by. You got it, coach. I'm your guy. Yeah, I'll do it. So I think middle rounds. If Ben Cleveland ends up a Falcon, I think he can. I think he can help the team.
Yeah, I think we're looking at a third and fourth type of selection for him, depending on how these medicals come back. And I think you can probably tell better than I can. How are they doing medicals this year? Are they just taking the word of the Georgia trainers because they're not having them in house? How are they handling medicals?
Yeah, I haven't looked that far ahead to the combine just yet about how they're doing that stuff. I would imagine they'll probably, like the Senior Bowl, everybody that was invited bubbled. They bubbled up. They all passed the test, and once they passed the test, then they were put into a bubble. Which for a long weekend isn't that big a deal. So that would be my that's how I think they'll probably handle it. And then they'll have their in-house stuff, and they'll cut down on the face-to-face interviews again. Yeah. That was always a big part of the combine, is the in-person interviews. That will be cut out big time. But they'll still do medicals and heights and weights and testing and all that kind of stuff. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of the results there. So you mentioned Nate Soldier. Someone once accused me of being obsessive. I'm like, wait, you say that like it's a bad thing. Right now, my obsession is Spencer Brown, offensive tackle out of Northern Iowa, 6'8.5". One of the guys that I have compared him to was another guy I saw at Senior Bowl out of the University of Colorado, Nate Soldier. Spencer Brown at 6'8.5", 314 pounds, is farther ahead of Soldier in every way, shape, and form at this stage of their careers. And he played at Northern Iowa, and I've seen some mocks have him go in the first, but basically he's overall marked down as a second or third round guy. And I think that's a name you got to watch. I think that's a name that if whoever you're a fan of, if he ends up on your team, and you're not going to want to try and pass rush this guy, but keep an eye on that name to remember: Spencer Brown, offensive tackle, Northern Iowa.
Well, I appreciate you, Scott. We will be looking out for Spencer Brown. Scott, before I let you go, tell the people how they can find you one last time.
Yeah, hit me up on Twitter at Scout Kennedy. I used to be the director of scouting at scout.com, and someone like Brooks used to say, "We've got Scout Kennedy." Oh, it's Scott Kennedy. Sorry, you know what? Let's just make it Scout. Scout Kennedy on Twitter, or you can find my YouTube channel at YouTube/C, because I guess I was the third one, ABC/Scott Kennedy. So, but find me on Twitter, and you can hit me up there, and I'll point you everywhere else from there. And then with Falcons coverage, allfalcons.com all day long.
Yeah, Scott and I will be doing a home and home, so you guys can see me over there on his YouTube channel as well. Y'all support me really, really well here on the YouTube channel and here on social media and all that good stuff. Support the people who support us. Scott is one of the main reasons why we're able to do these things nowadays. And I'm really happy to have him on. Scott, you're more than welcome to come join us here on MBR anytime, brother.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Appreciate you having me on. We'll, we're practically neighbors, so let's do this more often.
All right, brother. We'll see you. That was Scott Kennedy. And I don't know if you were at home, but if you were playing Scout Guide Terminology Bingo, you had the it factor, you had start from the ball out, win in the trenches. He's got a high motor away from hitting bingo on the Scout Terminology trilogy right there. So anyways, Scott Kennedy, please go support him and all of his YouTube stuff and all the stuff he does on Twitter. And of course, allfalcons.com. I know there's some intermingling in terms of Georgia fans, Atlanta Falcons fans. So if you haven't given up the narcotic of the Atlanta Falcons, go read and follow Scott. He does a great job. Now, before we go any further, and of course we will take phone calls tonight. I know I took a 31 with Scott, but old pals chumming it up, so that tends to happen. But I see some comments here about Scott's comment about if you had skill guys stick around for 4 and 5 years, it's probably a miss. And I see the comments about Nick Chubb and Sony Michel saying, oh, so they're misses. No, absolutely not. Nick Chubb and Sony Michel both were slotted and projected to be late first, second round draft picks after their junior seasons. They elected to come back for the love of Georgia and to come back and fight for a national title. Okay, that's a little bit different, right? That's a different scenario. What he's more talking about is the Keith Marshalls of the world, right? The guys that stuck around for 4 years that didn't quite make it. Now, the Matt Landerses of the world. Now, he transferred, but had he not transferred, he would have been sticking around. Trey Blunt, same thing. Now these guys typically transfer out. They get shoved out. And yeah, you could probably classify them as misses, right? Georgia recruits at an elite level. They pack that running back room nowadays with 6 or 7 really, really talented scholarship athletes. And after 3 years, attrition says, we hope that one of you guys is gone, so we're not stuck in a position, and it's a good one to be stuck in, but stuck in a position like Georgia is now where they're entering a 2021 season where it's like, okay, Zamir White came back. Does he take the same amount of portion shares? Because we loved what we saw from Kendall Milton, so what do we do now? It's kind of one of those situations, right? They planned and expected for those guys to have been off of this roster at this point. Now they're back. It's great. It's great for team morale. It's all great. It's, again, a great problem to have. But there's carries stolen from Kendall Milton this year in 2021 from Zamir White coming back. There's carries and touches and catches being stolen from Kenny McIntosh with James Cook coming back. There's no way to deny that fact. That is a fact, okay? So, yes, I'm in agreement with Scott here where he's talking about at the University of Georgia, if you've got guys sticking around 4 and 5 years at skill positions, not labeled quarterback, you probably missed on them, okay? Georgia's certainly stacking that quarterback room like they're expecting some of those guys to leave early, am I right? I mean, 2 5-stars back-to-back, 2 SI All-Americans back-to-back in 2021 and 2022, and Brock Vandagriff and Gunnar Stockton. I would hope that they're hoping that one of those guys leaves early and Brock Vandagriff has a great enough seasons or great enough career through 3 years of his college career where he can get out early. Because if he don't get out early, you ain't seeing Gunnar Stockton for 3 years at Georgia. That is the cold, hard truth and the cold, hard facts about that situation. All right, so last segment of the night, and it's one I'm super excited about. I always save the best for last, and this is one of those prime examples. I truly believe the University of Georgia has a great opportunity to become an absolute pass rushing juggernaut in the very near future. Okay, in the very near future. Let me read you some names. Bradley Chubb, Lorenzo Carter, Arden Key, Isaac Rochelle, Carl Lawson, Bud Dupree, Preston Smith, Bruce Irvin, Montravius Adams, Grady Jarrett, Cam Hayward. That's about 11 borderline Pro Bowl, borderline All-Pro guys. Cam Hayward, All-Pro guy. Grady Jarrett, Pro Bowl guy. Preston Smith, Pro Bowl guy. Carl Lawson, bordering during his early part of his career, Pro Bowl guy. Lorenzo Carter, great career, high draft pick. Bradley Chubb, first-round draft pick. Arden Key, second-round draft pick. Okay, what do all these guys have in common? They're from the state of Georgia. Most of them pretty damn close to the city of Atlanta. Okay, all Georgia guys in the NFL. And only one of those guys played at the University of Georgia, and that's Lorenzo Carter. Okay? So those are the guys from Georgia in the NFL. All great pass rushers, all great defensive linemen. How about the 2020 signing class? Anybody remember that one? Miles Murphy goes up to Clemson. Balls out freshman year. Will Anderson goes over to Alabama. Balls out freshman year. B.J. Ojolari goes out to LSU. Balls out freshman year. Zacchaeus Walker goes to Auburn. Plays in 12 or 10 games as a true freshman. Those 4 names from the state of Georgia in the class of 2020 that did not sign with their in-state school, they combined for 27 tackles for loss in 2020 and 16 total sacks between the 4 of them. Okay? All 4 of them, if you just average it out, well, I'll tell you this right now, B.J. Ojolari, well, Will Anderson and Miles Murphy had majority of these sacks. Those 2, single-handedly, Will Anderson would have led Georgia, I believe, in sacks in 2020. And Miles Murphy would have been about the same as true freshmen if you just transferred their statistical production. Okay? All those guys went away from Georgia. Why? Well, for the longest time, Georgia's been counter-recruited. And what I mean by counter-recruited, what I mean by that is programs like Clemson, programs like LSU, programs like Alabama came into the state of Georgia and told Georgia products, Georgia doesn't produce sacks. They don't. Georgia hadn't had a traditional defensive lineman drafted in the NFL draft since David Pollock in 2004, I believe. It's been a long time. It's been a long time since Georgia has put defensive linemen in the league. True defensive linemen. Not outside backers, true defensive linemen. It hasn't happened in a long time. Opposing programs have been telling Georgia kids this for quite a while, okay? For quite a while, okay? That was one. They don't let you get upfield and make plays. That's the other counter-recruiting tactic. Ed Orgeron comes into Georgia, tells B.J. Ojulari, don't go to Georgia. A, they're not really recruiting you that hard. They ain't really showing you that much love. B, even if you go there, they're going to make you do what your brother's doing. Where your brother is a first-round draft pick and going into your senior or his junior year, redshirt sophomore year, last year, in his first year starting as a redshirt freshman in 2019, he only had, 5.5 sacks? Your brother's better than 5.5 sacks. That's Georgia. That's what that is. That's their scheme. They're not letting that kid get upfield. Well, guess what? There's a change. There's a change in Athens going on right now. And if you don't believe me, take a look at 2020. In a season in which they played an all-SEC schedule. In a season in which they played 3 fewer games than the year before. In a season in which they had 35 sacks, 9th in the nation for total team sacks, 9th. After a year ago having 31. They increased their sack total despite playing fewer games and despite playing an all-SEC schedule. It's changing. They were 9th in sacks this year after being, I think, about 20th last year, okay? They're climbing up those ranks. They are. Jordan Davis will be an NFL draft pick. He will be a borderline first-round draft pick. Trayvon Walker will be an NFL draft pick. Jalen Carter will be an NFL draft pick. Warren Brinson got a great shot at being an NFL draft pick. Devontae Wyatt will play on Sundays. Things are changing around Georgia. And if you don't believe me, look what they did in 2021. Jonathan Jefferson was the best defensive line prospect in the state in 2021. He was one of the first commits in Georgia's 2021 class. Signed, sealed, delivered. Ain't no questions about it. Marlon Dean, everyone thinks that's a Florida kid. He ain't. He's from Elbert County, Georgia, up there in northeast Georgia. That's a Georgia boy. And he's going to Georgia. Okay? They're going to begin to keep guys in state on the defensive line. And if you don't believe me, look at what they're doing in 2022. Tyree West, Georgia. Donovan Westmoreland, Georgia. Darius Smith, Georgia. Okay? Michael Williams, top target for Georgia. Got a great chance at landing at Georgia. Okay? Christian Miller being heavily recruited by Georgia. All Georgia football players, all in-state products, all in the mix for the University of Georgia in 2022. They are loading up, ladies and gentlemen. The days of Ed Orgeron coming in here and telling B.J. Ojulari, we got you, baby. They are no more. They are no more. The days of Dabo Swinney coming down to Atlanta and saying, look, Miles Murphy, over there in Cobb County at Hillgrove High School, look, Georgia don't produce. They're gone. Those days are gone. Georgia will have a first-round edge rusher this year for all intents and purposes in Azeez Ojulari, and they got a great chance in the future of having first-round interior defensive linemen. Georgia's got all the resources in the world to become one of the premier pass rushing universities in college football. Now, yeah, they have the resources, but do they have the philosophy? That's the question. Do they have the philosophy? Will they allow people to get upfield? Well, I'm here to tell you, and I've already told the people on Patreon, over there at patreon.com/Brooks Austin. If you're not signed up, you should be. Link is not in the description, but it should be. Check my Twitter account out if you can't find it. But again, that's patreon.com/Brooks Austin. I told them this week, according to sources, they've convinced Kirby that this mush rush, pushing the pocket, is no more. We need to allow Jordan Davis to train pass rush moves. We need to allow Devontae Wyatt to get after the quarterback. After all, Kirby, in 2019, he was second on our football team in quarterback pressures. He was. He can get after the quarterback. Guess what, Kirby? You've got pass rushing specialists in Nolan Smith and Adam Anderson. Are you going to cut them loose? Not just on 3rd and 17, not just on 3rd and 10, but on 2nd and 6, 2nd and 8, 3rd and 5. Are you going to allow those guys to get upfield? Are you going to allow them to rush the passer and get after the quarterback? And now, all signs and all indications, according to the people that I've spoken to, Kirby's been in a new leaf. Kirby is turning a new leaf. He is evolutioning. He is becoming an evolutionary coach, changing his ways. Used to be a run-heavy offense. Bring me the air raid guy, Todd Monken. Give him to me, right? Used to not make quarterback changes. Used to ride it out with the incumbent, right? DeJuan Mathis, first quarter, out. Stetson Bennett, in. We just waiting, baby. We are waiting for JT Daniels. Boom, in. Okay? Evolutionary styles. He's changing it. Okay? He's making moves to become the ultimate team that he's trying to be, right? To get over that hump, to bring you your first national title since 1980. It's happening. Things are leaning towards that way. So, you know, that's kind of where it is, and that's kind of where it's going. I have one more point, but I can't quite remember it, and it doesn't matter. Georgia, oh, I know what it was. Why not? In a year of all years, why not? In 2021, where you're really, really hurting at corner. Okay, you've got great talent. Yes, we all know that. But you're really, really hurting. You're going to start basically 2 freshmen this year, most likely. Okay, if Nyland Green don't win out the other job apart from Keely Ringo, guess who is? Jalen Kimber. Guess how many starts Jalen Kimber's got? A goose egg. A goose egg. Guess how many starts Amir Speed, the oldest one in the room, guess how many starts in his career Amir Speed's got? A goose egg. You've got 0 experience at corner. What's the best way to take pressure off your corners? To let your defense line get up the field and get after the passer. There's a reason Chase Young damn near broke every single pass rushing record during his time at Ohio State. Why? Because they let him get upfield. They allowed him to pretty much have two-way goes at all times. Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa, same thing at Ohio State. There is a reason edge rushers and defensive end covet schools like Ohio State, because they give them the freedom to do pretty much whatever they want. They give them the freedom to just become football players. Just go get the ball carrier. Just go get the quarterback. The time is coming for the University of Georgia. And if you don't believe me, again, look at that 2022 class. Trey Scott ain't just bringing them in because Trey Scott's a great recruiter. He's always been a good recruiter. Now he's got the philosophy. Now he's got the promises. Now he's got the evidence. Exhibit A, 9th in the country in total sacks in 2020. We got you. You can come here and be a household name. You can come here and become a first-round draft pick. You can come here and break our sack records. It's all there. It is all there for the taking. All right, we got some football Q4BA. And again, we got a bunch of sissies over there on the Discord and on the Patreon account. I'm calling all of you out. I know you're all here. I see you. Chuck, I see you in the comments. Who we got? G-Baby, I see you in there. Tyree, I see all y'all in there. I see all y'all in there. I see Patreon folks everywhere on this channel. Too much of a sissy to call in and give your opinions on the show. That's okay. I guess we're going to have to wait on my boy SSL to save the show. And maybe he comes in like a knight. Oh, I bet this is him right here. Man, that's what I love. I give out a challenge and we get somebody calling in. Who we got here? 706. What's up?
Hey, this is Buddy.
Oh,
Preston.
buddy.
I was a defensive end in high school. I was more of an edge rusher because I had no butt. So,
see, now I've got 4. Go ahead.
We have recruiting prowess, and we're pulling these players. But in a prior video a month ago, you were talking about how we just don't develop. So, can you make a comment on? Are we changing our strength and conditioning and getting sports nutritionists in there to develop these players? Or are we flipping them to run more of angle, insert zone plays? That's my question.
So I believe, and sorry, I was answering. As soon as I challenged people, I got about 12 phone calls. So is the question about development of offensive alignment or defensive alignment, or as a whole, players as a whole?
That one specifically is for our offensive linemen.
Okay, so the problem I have with the offensive lineman at Georgia is, as he pointed out, right? As Buddy pointed out, if you go back and watch the YouTube video that we had about it, I don't see any physical development, right? You're recruiting 5 stars, you're recruiting 12 stars, whatever. They're great football players when they get there, but Trey Hill looked the same day 1 as he did day 1001, okay, when he left the University of Georgia. So that is a major concern, and to be honest with you, I made those points prior to any, we're going to have to see some data, right? We're going to have to see some extensive history of whether or not I can change my opinion upon that, buddy. And it's going to take a couple of years to see if we can get things to change a little bit physically. If guys can become, more of a physical presence, if they can change their body, if they can alter their body just a little bit, it's going to take a while before we can get there. Does that make sense, bud?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Appreciate you, brother. All right, we had some more phone calls. 229, whoever you are, keep calling, baby. You know what? I'm going to call you back. Or no, you call me, okay? Sorry, that's how it works. I bombard you guys. I challenge you guys. You show up. I'd like you to show up periodically, not all at once, okay? I only got one phone line over here. I don't have 25 phone lines. So 229, whoever you were, call back, buddy. We'll get you right in. So before he calls back, let's get to this football Q4BA. Again, if you want to send us in a question about football in general, if you've got a genuine question about how something in football works, feel free to hit up that chat line. Again, that is football Q, spelled out. Football Q. Hold on, 229. I'll get to you in a second. Stay right there. Football Q 4BA. Q the letter 4 FORBA at gmail.com. Send an email in there and we'll get your question answered. This one comes from my man Dan Kiley over there on the Discord channel. He asked, hey Brooks, what's up with all these offensive linemen rotating? Back in my day, he threw the back in my day. Back in my day, we were tough, we were mean. We didn't come off the field. The five were the five. They didn't leave. Well, I'm here to tell you, Dan, I was doing some research today and I thought it was a pace issue, right? I thought they were playing more plays per game. They were playing faster. That ain't the case. I went back 5 years ago. Georgia was running 5 fewer plays than they were now. Last year, they ran 68.5 plays per game on the offensive side of the football. 10 years ago, they were averaging 63 plays per game, so just a 5 difference. 20 years ago, in the early 2000s when Rick first showed up, they were averaging 67 plays a game. So the pace really hadn't changed. They're running the same amount of plays. Now, what has changed is you got a whole lot more great players, and I think that's what it boils down to, right? Great players have to get on the field at some point in time. So if it behooves you, if you're Kirby Smart, every once in a while to play the 5-star that's been sitting on your bench for 3 years and hadn't got much playing time. It behooves you to do that. 229, I am sorry for the inconveniences with your phone call.
No,
Give me
you're
what
good.
you got.
Yeah, I was a part of that. I played offensive line in high school at Coffee County High School.
Ooh,
Moultrie.
Colquitt boys, South Georgia. What's up?
Yes. Yeah, I know the big uglies on the O-line. We get down and dirty. I just want to say, I agree with I think for Georgia to be successful again on defense next year, they're going to have to it's going to be with Ringo and Green and Kimber, whoever they start in the back end of the secondary, it's going to take some time for them all to gel and for them all to work together and get up to speed, because none of them have had experience at the college level, even though Amir Speed also has been there 5 years now.
It's been a while. Yes, it has been a while.
He was a part of that 2017 class. Jeez. I agree. I think this is the year it's time to get Davis, Wyatt, Trayvon Walker, all the interior defensive linemen, and actually start making moves upfield instead of just bull rushing the offensive linemen and try and just run them over and knock them into their lap. I think if they want to have that's been one of the biggest differences. Like when they had won the national championship past
Which
few
year?
years. The years. Well, like when they had against Georgia, like in 2017,
Yeah.
they had Ron Payne. 18, they had Quinnen Williams.
Raekwon Davis.
Right.
Yeah, loaded up.
Yeah, and they weren't just sitting there just bull rushing the offensive linemen. They were actually pushing the pocket and getting absolute pressure on. And that was one of the main differences that Georgia's had compared to Clemson and Ohio State and Alabama was they were sending players into the NFL every year.
Yeah.
Not just, and Georgia hadn't had a player drafted on the defensive line actually since.
Were you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. John Jenkins was the last defensive lineman they had drafted.
Been a while. What was that, 2007?
13.
2013. So 8 years ago. It's been
Right.
quite a long time. Well, I appreciate you for calling, brother. You got anything else before we let you go?
No, I'm good, man.
All right, brother.
Y'all join the Patreon.
That'll boy. That'll boy. That's a company man right there. I like to hear that. Yeah, man. I think that's probably going to be it for tonight for us. If we got any more callers from Patreon as I get set to send us out, feel free to do it. This show's constantly changing. This platform's constantly changing. But the one thing that I don't believe will ever change about it is the fact that we're a community-driven platform. It's exactly what we are. The NBR topics that we bring to you on this channel, things like that. All of this is brought to my attention mostly by our Discord channel, our community chat board, things like that. Our Patreon.com site, which the Discord channel is connected to the Patreon.com site. So some of the best people and some of the best conversations you'll ever be around. I can't really, it's my product, so I can sit here and talk about it all the time. But I think the people that are there, the people that have created that community outside of me, they will be the first ones to tell you that it's one of their favorite Georgia football communities to even be a part of, because there's no bullcrap, guys. It's just genuine good people talking about topics that they thoroughly enjoy. And I'm gonna tell you what, I thoroughly enjoy this music. This music gets me hyped. This music gets me to intro this show like it ought to be. And it gets me to outro this show like it ought to be. Okay, I don't know what we're gonna bring you Thursday. I don't know if I'm gonna have a production assistant. I don't know what's gonna happen. But I will tell you this. Whatever film study I bring you Thursday is gonna be on point. It's gonna be fine. Okay, so those of you guys and gals that are over there on the YouTube channel right now, hanging out, listening, enjoying the viewing party here on Nothing But Rants, join the Patreon.com site. I see how many of you guys are in here, and I know ain't all of you a member of the Patreon account. So sack up, save a Subway sandwich, save a pub sub, and come bring it on over to the Patreon.com site, //Brooks Austin. And guess what? If you're one of those people that may or may not, maybe money's tight. I know things are a little difficult right now with all that's going on in the world. If that is what's happening, okay, if you're one of those people, then just hit me up on social. We'll take care of you, okay? That's the other thing I love about this community. We were talking about this on a live show. You know, got some people that may not be able to afford the Discord, may not be able to afford the Patreon account. Well, guess what the Patreon community did? They reached out to me collectively and said, Brooks, we want to start a community donation pool. We want to get a pool of money together so we can give out free memberships to your Patreon.com site. So that's what we got. We got a community that is self-sourced, self-funded, and content created over there. And as the comment sections are saying, it's the best $5 or $10 you can spend all month